Thank you. Thank you, my beloved brother and sister. I think everything needed to be said has been said. We've heard the word. We preached the word. We heard the music. Thank you. I'm honored and delighted to be here. I too grew up in rural Alabama. You grew up in another part of Alabama, Dr. McCain. I grew up outside of Troy on a farm. My father was a sharecropper, a tenant farmer. But back in 1944, when I was only 4 years old, and I do remember when I was 4, my father had saved $300, and with the $300, he bought 110 acres of land. My family still own that land today. And I'll be very brief. We raised a lot of hogs and cows and chickens and peanuts and cotton and corn. I worked very hard on that farm. I used to tell my mother, this hard work is going to kill me. And she said, oh, boy, hard work never killed anyone. As a little child, I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to preach, but it was my responsibility to care for the chickens. And I fell in love with raising chickens like no one else could raise chickens. And from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters and cousins, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard like you're gathered here today. And I would be the minister. But my brothers and sisters and cousins and the chicken would make up the audience, the congregation. And I would start speaking or preaching, and some of the chicken would bow their heads. Some of the chicken would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced more and more that some of those chickens that I preached to in the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listen to me today in the Congress. And to be very frank and candid, some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. Now, I too, growing up, you know, I was deeply inspired by the teaching of Jesus. I went to church, went to Sunday school, every Sunday. But when I would visit the little town of Troy, or go to Montgomery, or go to Tuskegee, I saw those signs saying white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, color waiting, and I didn't like it. Now, ask my mother, ask my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? They said, that's the way it is, don't get in the way, don't get in trouble. But one day I heard about Martin Luther King Jr., heard about Rosa Parks, heard the words of Dr. King on the old radio, and inspired me to find a way to get in the way. I got in the way, I got in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. And that's what I've been trying to do for more than 50 years. The sit-ins, the freedom ride, came here the first time to D.C. in May 1961, 21 years old, the same year that President Barack Obama was born. Came here to go on a freedom ride. Back in 1961, and I said for the young people here, black people and white people couldn't sit together on a Greyhound bus when you left Washington, D.C. and go into Virginia, or travel through North Carolina, or South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi on our way to New Orleans. We had to change that. Then I came back here in 1963 with Dr. King and others for the March on Washington. So I was there that day, almost 50 years ago, when Dr. King said, I have a dream today, a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. If it hadn't been for Martin Luther King Jr., I don't know what would have happened to many of us. I could still be down there in Alabama preaching to those chickens. Today, this year, we commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. And we said maybe Lincoln freed the slaves, but Martin Luther King Jr. liberated a nation. This one man taught us to stand up, not to be afraid, not to give up, not to give in, but to keep the faith and to keep our eyes on the prize. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service. We have miles to go. We're not there yet. People asked me yesterday in Chicago whether we have reached the beloved community, whether the election of President Barack Obama is a fulfillment of Dr. King's dream. I said, no, just a down payment. We're not there yet, but we're on our way, and there will be no turning back. It doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. We're one people, we're one family, we're one house. And we must restore together this little piece of real estate we call Earth. Thank you very much for this honor.